The doctor's mouth was moving. The bullet is lodged near the spine. Significant damage. I wasn't listening. I was staring at a clear plastic bag on a metal tray. My son Logan's jacket. The police report said he was hit once, but I could see 3 distinct, dark-rimmed holes in the fabric. 3. My hands went cold. The life I'd spent 15 years building just evaporated. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. Part 1. The glass pavement. The smell of bleach and old coffee burned my nose. My wife, Clara, was making a sound, a low, torn sound in her throat that didn't even sound human. She was clutching my forearm, her nails digging crescents into my skin. I didn't feel it. The world had gone silent and sharp. The colors in the hospital waiting room were too bright. The hum of the vending machine was a roar. It's a feeling I recognized. It's the calm that washes over you right before you kick in a door, right before the world explodes. I hadn't felt this, awake, in 15 years. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes? I turned. A woman in a cheap gray blazer. Detective Harper. Her eyes were tired, and she had a small coffee stain on her cuff. She was holding a little notepad like it was a shield. My son, Logan, is he? Clara couldn't finish the sentence. He's in surgery, ma'am. He's stable for now, Harper said, her voice flat, practiced. I need to ask you a few questions. I stayed standing. I let Clara lean on me, but my focus was entirely on the detective. I was watching her pupils, the way her weight shifted from foot to foot. We're treating this as gang-related, she said, glancing at her notes. It seems your son was in the wrong place at the wrong time. A territorial dispute. Clara erupted. Gang? What are you talking about? Logan isn't in a gang. He's a good boy. He's in college. Detective Harper sighed. It was the sigh of someone who had heard this exact line 100 times. Ma'am, with all due respect, your son's name? It's come up before. We've been monitoring a local crew, a loan sharking operation run by a man named Dominic. That's a lie. Clara screamed, pulling away from me. You're lying. Grant, tell her she's lying. I just looked at Harper. My voice came out low, and cold, and dead. 3. Harper blinked. Sir. 3 holes, I said. I saw his jacket. In the evidence bag. There were 3 holes. 1 in the chest, 2 in the gut. The media said it was a drive-by. I watched her face. A tiny flicker in her left eye. She was surprised. That's not public information, Mr. Hayes. A drive-by is messy. I continued, my voice barely a whisper. It's panic. It's spraying bullets. 3 shots, all center mass. That's not a dispute. That's not wrong place, wrong time. That's an execution. That's a message. The detective's entire posture changed. She wasn't talking to a grieving father anymore. She was looking at me. Who are you? She asked. I'm the man whose son is on that table, I said. But we both knew that wasn't the answer. She looked down, then back up. Look, Mr. Hayes. We have a witness who saw a black sedan. 2 individuals. It was fast. This kid, Dominic, his crew is the only one in that area reckless enough to pull something in broad daylight. We're running with that lead. Dominic. I repeated the name. It felt like gravel in my mouth. And you have nothing else. It wasn't a question. She pressed her lips together. We're doing everything we can. No, I said. You're not. I turned away from her and looked through the window at my wife, who was now just a crumpled shape in a plastic chair, her face in her hands. The love I felt for that woman was a physical ache. The life I had built with her, the nice house, the suburban barbecues, the parent-teacher conferences, it was all a lie. It was a costume. I had pretended to be Grant Hayes, the logistics manager, for so long, I almost believed it. I had buried the other man. The man who lived in the dark, the man who understood violence, the man the army called when things went impossibly wrong. But you can't bury something like that. You can only chain it up. And I just heard the chain break. The doctor, a young guy named Evan, came back out. His face was grim. He's out of surgery. We've done all we can. He's stable, but he's in a medically induced coma. The bullet near his spine, the swelling. The next 48 hours are critical. A coma. Clara just stared blankly, the words not registering. I nodded. My mind was already moving, calculating. A coma wasn't an end. It was a deadline. I need some air, I whispered to Clara, kissing the top of her head. I'll be right back. Just hold on. She didn't answer. I walked out of the waiting room, my shoes squeaking on the polished floor. I walked past Detective Harper, who was watching me with a new, strange look on her face. Fear? Confusion? It didn't matter. She was irrelevant. The automatic doors slid open and the cold November air hit my face. It didn't feel cold. I felt nothing at all. The police were looking for a gangbang. They were looking for a kid. They were following procedure. I wasn't. I pulled my phone from my pocket. My hands weren't shaking. Not even a little. I had one contact in my phone I hadn't called in 15 years. A single name, Felix. They shot my son in broad daylight. They did it because they thought he was just a college kid. They thought I was just a dad. They thought I was weak. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know what I am. They were about to find out. I stood in the dark, sterile silence of the ICU, my shadow long on the floor. The only sound was the rhythmic, synthetic puff and click of the ventilator breathing for my son. Puff, click. Logan was pale, swallowed by a nest of white sheets and blue tubes. And 4 lines snaked into his arm, another into his neck. A thin wire taped to his finger fed a glowing red number to the monitor above his bed. 98, 98, 97. Clara was asleep in the recliner in the corner, her face swollen, her mouth open. She looked 10 years older than she had this morning. I pulled the thin hospital blanket up over her shoulders. She didn't stir. I turned back to Logan, my son, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, the kid I'd helped with his algebra, the young man who had just argued with me last week about borrowing the car. He looked small, fragile. I reached out and laid my hand over his. It was warm, but still. I looked at the dark, bruising stitches on his chest, where the surgeons had gone in. I pictured the path of the 3 bullets. Center mass. No hesitation. This wasn't a warning. This was an attempt to erase him. A cold, clear certainty settled in my chest, heavy as lead. It was a feeling I knew well. It was the quiet click of a switch. The father, Grant Hayes, was fading. The operator was taking the wheel. I leaned in close to my son's ear, the smell of antiseptic sharp in my nostrils. I am here, Logan, I whispered, my voice rough. They don't know me. They don't know what they've done. But I am going to find them, and they are going to answer for this. I vow that to you. I vow it on my life. I let go of his hand, turned, and walked out of the room. The drive to the crime scene was automatic. I don't remember the traffic or the lights. My mind was already there, walking the grid. When I arrived, the street was dead. It was almost 2 a.m. The yellow and black, police line, do not cross, tape sagged limply in the streetlight, flapping in the light breeze. A single patrol car was parked at the end of the block, its windows fogged. The cop inside was either asleep or buried in his phone. I didn't cross the tape. Not yet. I walked the opposite side of the street, just observing. The pavement was dark with dampness. I saw the chalk outlines, stark white against the asphalt. 1 for Logan. 2 clusters for the shell casings. 9mm, standard. I saw the storefronts. A laundromat, a closed-down pizzeria, a bodega with a flickering, open sign. I looked at the bodega's windows. 2 cameras. 1 pointing at the register, 1 pointing at the door. But it was angled. It would have caught the sidewalk. Detective Harper's witness saw a black sedan. A black sedan is not a car. It's a shadow. It's nothing. I crossed the street, stepping under the tape. I kept to the shadows, my footsteps silent on the pavement. I started at the chalk outline and worked my way outward. Cops look for the obvious. The gun, the casings, the blood. I look for what's wrong. I scan the gutter. Cigarette butts, a crumpled lottery ticket, a fast food wrapper. Then I saw it. tucked just under the lip of a sewer grate, almost invisible. It wasn't a cheap, disposable vape. It was custom, machined aluminum, a deep metallic blue. It had a small, engraved logo on the side, an O with a snake coiled through it. I knelt. My fingers. I hadn't thought about gloves. It didn't matter. I wasn't building a case for Harper. I was gathering intelligence. I picked it up. It was heavy, expensive, and it was still warm. This wasn't dropped yesterday. This was dropped today. Right here. The shooter. I slipped it into my pocket and walked back to my car, my shadow melting away. I got in, locked the doors, and stared at the dark street. I pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over the single name. Felix. My heart was beating a slow, heavy drum. 15 years. 15 years of silence, of pretending that part of my life never existed. I pressed the call button. It rang once. Twice. Yeah. The voice was the same. Croaked, suspicious, wired on caffeine. Felix, I said. A dead, long silence on the line. I heard the scratch of a match, the deep inhale of a cigarette. Grant. His voice was a rasp of disbelief. Holy hell. I thought you were a ghost. I thought you were, a logistics manager. I am, I said. But I need something. You're calling me after 15 years. You don't need something, Grant. You need a miracle. Or you're in a hole. Which is it? My son was shot, Felix. He's in the ICU. The police are calling it a gang hit. The joking, rusty tone in his voice died instantly. Grant. Who? A crew run by a man named Dominic. That's the name the cops have. But I'm not a cop. I need to know everything. I'm at the scene. I found a vape pen. Custom. Blue. A logo like a snake in an oat. Send me a picture, he commanded. I took a photo in the dim light of the car and sent it. I heard him typing, his keyboard clicking like gunfire. I need to know who this Dominic is, I said, my voice flat. Not the police version. I need to know who he answers to. I need to know where he sleeps. I need to know what he fears. Grant, this is a dark road. You left this. You got out. They pull me back in, Felix. They put my son on a ventilator. Another silence. Longer this time. Okay, Felix said, his voice all business now. Okay. This vape, this logo. I know it. It's from an import-only brand. Very high-end. They batch-track their serial numbers. Give me 2 hours. And Grant. Yeah. Welcome back. I guess. He hung up. I put the phone down. The car was cold. I looked at the hospital visitor's pass still stuck to my jacket. The picture on it was of a smiling, suburban dad. I ripped it off and threw it on the passenger seat. I didn't go home. I couldn't. The smell of our house, Clara's vanilla candles, old books, the faint scent of the dinner we were supposed to eat. I would have suffocated. I went back to the hospital, but I didn't go inside. I sat in my parked car in the cavernous, half-empty garage, the engine off. The concrete smelled like cold dust and oil. 2 hours. Felix said 2 hours. My phone screen was black. I stared at it. In my old life, waiting was 90% of the job. You'd sit in a damp field or a cramped attic for days, just waiting for one man to walk through one door. I was good at waiting. I had just forgotten. My phone buzzed, the vibration harsh against the plastic cup holder. I picked it up. A single text from Felix. It wasn't a paragraph. It was a data file, an address, a name, an a.zip file full of images. Address, 1420 Industrial Way, a high-end auto customization shop called Riders Rides. Name, Dominic. No last name needed. He owned the shop. Images. The .zip file contained dozens of social media photos. Dominic, maybe 25, 26 years old, posing with cars worth more than my house. Dominic at clubs, bottles in his hand. Dominic at a street race. And in 3 of those photos, clearly visible in his hand or on a table next to him, was the custom blue vape. Felix had also attached a note. Shop is a front. He runs a high-interest loan operation. Moves a lot of money. The word is, he's ambitious. And stupid. He likes to make examples of people who are late. He has no idea who you are, Grant. He thinks he's a shark, but he's swimming in a puddle. Be smart. He likes to make examples. The words echoed in the cold car. 3 bullets. Center mass. My son. My son was an example. The coldness in my chest didn't flare into rage. It condensed. It became something hard and sharp and heavy. I put the car in drive. Clara called. I saw her face on the screen and my thumb flinched. I let it ring. It rang and then stopped. A text popped up. Grant, where are you? The doctor is here. Please. I typed back, my fingers moving stiffly. Had to step out. Talk to insurance. Be back soon. Tell them to just hold on. It was the first lie. It slid out of me with a sickening ease. I hated it, but it was necessary. The Grant Hayes she knew couldn't do what needed to be done. He would call the police. He would yell. He would cry. The man driving this car, he was someone else. 1420 Industrial Way was in a part of town I never went to. Old brick warehouses being slowly replaced by glass-fronted breweries and tech startups. Ryder's Rides was one of the old ones, but its bay doors were new, painted a gleaming, obnoxious red. I didn't park nearby. I parked 3 blocks away on a dark side street, my sedan hidden between a dump truck and a rusted-out van. I got out and walked. The night air was cold. I kept to the shadows. It was almost 4 a.m., but the shop was lit up inside like a movie set. I found my spot, an alley across the street, behind a locked chain-link fence. It gave me a perfect, dark angle on the front office and the 2 main bay doors. And I waited. For an hour, nothing. A few mechanics, looking more like street kids, smoked cigarettes by a side door. Then, a black Mercedes G-Wagon pulled up. It parked right on the sidewalk, like the rules didn't apply to it. The passenger door opened. A kid in a hoodie got out, his face illuminated by his phone. He opened the back door. He stepped out. Dominic. He was a child. My first thought. He was my son's age. Thin, in a designer jacket that looked ridiculous, his hair meticulously messy. He was laughing, talking to someone still in the truck. He looked like he didn't have a single care in the world. He looked like a boy who had never faced a real consequence in his entire life. He hadn't seen my son's face. He hadn't heard Clara's sobs. He hadn't seen the blood on the pavement. I felt my breathing slow down. My vision narrowed until the only thing that existed in the world was the man in the designer jacket. The sounds of the city, the distant sirens, the rumble of a truck, faded to a dull roar. I was back. The old focus. The cold, clear purpose. I wasn't a father watching his son's attacker. I was an operator acquiring a target. I watched him. I memorized his walk, the way he gestured with his left hand, the fact that he never once looked over his shoulder. He was careless. He was soft. He was a product of a world where guns made you powerful. He had no idea what a real weapon looked like. Dominic and his crew went inside. The lights in the office stayed on. I stayed in the dark. I watched the door. I was building the pattern, the rhythm of the place. Who comes, who goes? What time? What car? An hour later, as the sky was just beginning to turn a sick, gray blue, another car pulled up. Not a flashy Benz. A conservative, gray Lexus sedan. It parked legally. A man got out. He was older. He wore a suit. He was carrying a leather briefcase. He looked nervous, checking his phone, looking up and down the empty street. He walked quickly to the office door. He didn't knock. He was buzzed right in. I knew him. My blood didn't just go cold. It turned to ice. It was Preston, the lawyer who had handled the mortgage on our house. The man who had been to our barbecue 2 summers ago. The man who had patted Logan on the back and told him to make good choices in college. Preston, our lawyer, walking into a loan shark's chop shop at 5 o'clock in the morning. And suddenly, my son's shooting wasn't a gang-related event. It wasn't random. It was personal. Preston, my heart didn't pound. It just stopped. For 1 full second, the world went white at the edges. Our lawyer, the man who had reviewed our life insurance, the man who Clara had coffee with to discuss our estate planning. That Preston, He scurried inside the office, his briefcase held tight to his chest. He looked like a rat diving for a sewer. I understood. I understood in a way that made my stomach heave. This wasn't a gang war. This wasn't a random shooting. This was a message, yes. But it was aimed at my house. At my family. And the call was coming from inside. I didn't wait to see him leave. I had what I needed. I melted back into the shadows, my mind racing, sorting, discarding. The 3-block walk back to my car felt like crossing a desert. Preston. Dominic. My son. The pieces were on the table, but the picture they made was monstrous. I drove back to the hospital, the gray dawn light making the city look like a corpse. I felt hollowed out. The cold purpose of the operator was still there, but now it was tangled with a thick, choking knot of betrayal. When I walked back into the ICU waiting area, Clara shot up from the chair. Her eyes were wide, red-rimmed, and not just with grief. With anger. Grant, where were you? Her voice was a raw whisper, but sharp. I called you. The doctor. He was asking about Logan's medical history. I didn't know the answers. I was alone. I went for a drive, I said. The lie tasted like ash. I couldn't breathe in here. She stared at me, her gaze searching my face. She was looking for her husband, the man who would hold her. But he wasn't there. She was looking at a stranger, a man made of ice and secrets. You look. She started, then stopped. You look like you did when your father died. Shut down. Miles away. Don't do that, Grant. Please. Don't leave me alone in this. I'm not. I said, my voice too flat. I couldn't manufacture the warmth she needed. I'm right here. What did the doctor say? No change. Still in the coma. They're worried about swelling. She rubbed her temples, a frantic, repetitive motion. I need to go home. Just for an hour. To shower. To get out of these clothes. But I don't want to leave him. I'm here, I said. You go? I'll watch him. I won't leave his side. She nodded, a small, jerky movement. Okay. While I'm there. Can you go to the house, too? I need my medication from the cabinet. And, I don't know. Just check on things. Make sure the door is locked. Of course. She grabbed her purse, her hands shaking, and hurried out, not looking back. I waited 5 minutes. Then I walked to the ICU nurse's station. My wife is exhausted, I said, putting just enough tremor in my voice. I'm going to our house to get her some things. I'll be back in 1 hour. You have my cell. Call me if anything. The nurse nodded, her eyes full of practiced pity. I was back in my car in 30 seconds. The drive to my own home was the strangest of all. The green lawns, the tidy mailboxes. It looked like a movie set, a life that belonged to someone else. I let myself in. The silence of the house was deafening. It still smelled like last night's dinner. I walked past our bedroom, past the kitchen, and went straight to Logan's room. I stood in the doorway. Posters of bands I didn't know. A stack of college textbooks on his desk. His bed, unmade. A hoodie slung over his desk chair. It smelled like him. And for a second, the father, Grant Hayes, broke through. A wave of grief hit me so hard I had to grip the doorframe. My son. My boy. Then the coldness flooded back in. They did this. I closed the door, and I began to search. I wasn't a father looking for memories. I was an operator searching a room. I didn't open drawers. I pulled them all the way out, checking the space behind them. I ran my fingers along the top of the doorframe. I checked the air vents. I tapped the walls, listening for a hollow sound. Under his desk, I felt it. A small, square section of the wood floorboard. It was just a little loose. I didn't need a tool. My fingers are my tools. I worked the board free. Beneath it was a small, hollow space. And inside was a thin, black, spiral-bound notebook. My heart was a cold stone in my chest. I sat on my son's bed, the bed I had built with my own hands, and I opened it. It wasn't a diary. It was a ledger. Page after page of dates, small cash amounts, and initials. $150, JT, $300, MP, but then the entries changed. They got bigger, and the initials stopped. A name appeared. Preston. Preston. $5,000 Preston. $7,500. My breath hitched. Logan, what was he doing? I flipped to the last page. Taped to the inside of the back cover was a folded document. A cashier's check receipt. It was for $20,000. It was dated 2 days ago. The payee was Ryder's Rides. And underneath it was another document. A loan agreement from a private lender. I scanned the terms. The interest rate was criminal. Utterly predatory. I was looking for Logan's signature. I was bracing myself for the fact that my son was in deep, terrible trouble. But the signature at the bottom wasn't his. The name, written in the familiar, looping script I had seen on 1,000 birthday cards and grocery lists, was Clara Hayes. My wife. The air left my lungs. The notebook slipped from my numb fingers. The debt wasn't Logan's. It was Clara's. My son. My son hadn't been a part of this. He had been trying to fix it. He had been paying off his mother's secret debt to a loan shark. To Dominic. And Preston. Preston, our family friend, our lawyer. He hadn't just introduced her to a shark. He was partners with him. He had fed my wife to him. And when my son, my brave, stupid, beautiful son, tried to intervene, tried to pay it off, they made an example of him. I sat there, in the silence of my son's room, and I finally understood. This wasn't just an attack. This was a betrayal that ran so deep, it had rotted my entire life from the inside out, and I had never even seen it. The notebook felt like a block of ice in my hand. Clara Hayes, my wife, my quiet, gentle Clara, who organized bake sales and worried about the lawn. The woman I had slept next to for 20 years. The betrayal was so total, it was suffocating. It wasn't just the lie. It was the scale of it. Preston, Dominic, the loan, the danger she had invited into our home, a danger that had now swallowed our son. I put the ledger back. I slid the floorboard into place. I stood up, and the room spun for a second. I had to go back to the hospital. I had to sit in that waiting room, next to her. I had to look at her face, knowing she was the architect of our son's destruction. The operator took over. Emotion is a liability. Information is ammunition. I couldn't confront her. Not yet. Confrontation would make her panic, and a panicked person is unpredictable. I needed her to believe I was still the same clueless, grieving husband. I needed to see him. I walked out of my house, locking the door behind me. The entire street, my entire life, felt like a cardboard set. I drove back to Industrial Way. It was mid-morning now. The sun was out, bright and cold, making the world look too sharp. Ryder's Rides was open. The big red bay doors were rolled up, and loud, obnoxious music was blaring from inside, echoing off the brick. Cars were parked everywhere. I didn't park 3 blocks away this time. I pulled my sensible family sedan right into their lot, parking it crookedly, like a man distracted by grief. I got out. I wasn't the operator now. I was the father. I let my shoulders slump. I didn't shave. I rubbed my eyes until they were red. I let the tremor I was feeling in my gut show in my hands. I looked exactly like what I was supposed to be, a broken, confused, middle-aged man who was in way over his head. I walked toward the office. A mechanic, a big guy with Hunter tattooed on his neck, stepped in front of me. "Can I help you, old man?" he sneered, wiping grease on his shirt. I need to see Dominic," I said, my voice cracking just right. "Please. It's about my son." Hunter's face didn't change, but his eyes flickered to the office. He'd heard the name. He jerked his head. "In there? Don't waste his time." I pushed the door open. The office was thick with the smell of cheap cologne and energy drinks. Dominic was exactly where I'd seen him last night, only now his feet were on the desk, and he was laughing into his phone. He glanced up, his face instantly twisting into annoyance. "The hell do you want? This ain't a dealership. We don't sell minivans." "Mr. Dominic?" I said, wringing my hands. My name is Grant Hayes. My son, Logan, he was shot. Yesterday. Dominic's smile didn't fade, but it hardened. He snapped his phone shut and put it on the desk. He leaned forward. Logan Hayes. Yeah, I heard about that. Tragic. Real tragic. His eyes were dead. There was nothing in them. No remorse, no fear. Just boredom. The police, I stammered, playing the part. They said it might be gang-related. They mentioned your business. I don't understand. Logan, he's a good kid. He's in college. He's not. He wasn't in a gang. I was begging. I was playing the weak father, desperate for answers. Dominic stood up. He walked around the desk, stopping just a foot in front of me. He was shorter than me, but he postured like he was a giant. He was enjoying this. He was feeding on my pain. You're right, Dad, he said, drawing the word out. He wasn't in a gang. He was just stupid. Got himself mixed up in business that wasn't his. What business? Please, I just want to know why. He's in a coma. I let my voice break, let a tear well up. Dominic's eyes lit up. He loved this. He loved the power. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a confidential, cruel whisper. You really want to know? He was trying to be a hero. He was trying to pay off a debt that wasn't his. My heart hammered. Here it is. A debt. I asked, my voice a hollow shell. Yeah, a big one, Dominic smirked. See, maybe you should ask his mom where she's been spending her afternoons. Maybe you should ask Clara about her bad habits. He said her name. He said my wife's name like it was something dirty he'd found on his shoe. She owes me a lot of money, Dominic continued, tapping his temple. And she was late. Very late. I guess her boy tried to step in. And when people don't pay me, I have to send a message. So the whole family understands the terms of the loan. He was confessing. He was bragging about it to my face. He was so arrogant, so insulated by his cheap power, that he saw me as nothing. A gnat. A grieving old man he could taunt. You tell your wife, he said, his voice turning to steel, that the interest just went way up. And now, I'm collecting, whether she likes it or not. My every instinct, every fiber of training, every ounce of rage in my soul, screamed at me to end him, to break his throat with the edge of my hand, to take his smirking face and drive it through the drywall. I could have done it, right there, in 3 seconds. But that would have been a mercy. That was what he understood. Brute force. A bullet. I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I let the tears fall. I collapsed in on myself. Please, I whispered a broken sound. She doesn't have any money. We're just, please, my son. Dominic's face twisted in disgust. You're pathetic. He turned away. Hunter, get this crying old fool out of my shop. He's killing the vibe. The big mechanic, Hunter, grabbed my upper arm in a grip tight enough to bruise. You heard him. Get out. I didn't resist. I let him drag me, stumbling, out of the office, through the loud garage, and shove me toward my car. And don't come back, Hunter shouted. I fell against my sedan. I fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking. This time, it wasn't an act. It was adrenaline. It was a rage so pure and so cold it was almost paralyzing. I got in the car. I started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I could see Dominic standing in the office doorway, watching me, a look of utter contempt on his face. He had just confirmed everything. He had admitted to it all. And he had done it because he thought I was weak. He thought I was a civilian. He thought I was just a dad. He had no idea. He had just armed me with the only weapon I needed, his own arrogance. He thought he'd send a message. He had no idea. I was about to send one back. I drove. I don't know how I got back to the hospital. My hands were on the wheel, my foot was on the gas, but I was somewhere else. I was in a cold, dark room in my own mind, looking at the ruins of my life. Clara. Dominic's taunting words echoed in my head. Ask his mom where she's been spending her afternoons. I parked in the hospital garage, in the exact same spot as before. I sat for a full minute, my keys in my hand. The rage was gone. It had burned away, leaving something else. A hollow, frozen calm. The operator was fully in control now. The husband was gone. The father was a ghost. I walked into the ICU. Clara was standing at the window, staring out at the parking lot, her back to me. "Grant," she said, without turning. She sounded exhausted. "Any news?" My voice came out flat, devoid of all life. "We're going home." That made her turn. Her face was a mask of confusion. "What?" "No. I can't leave him." "Yes, you can. You are. The nurse will call us if anything changes. We're going home. Now." It wasn't a request. The tone in my voice, she had never heard it before. It wasn't angry. It was worse. It was final. "Grant." "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice small, a new fear creeping into her eyes. The fear wasn't for Logan. It was of me. "Get your purse, Clara." The drive to our house was a screaming silence. The air in the car was so thick, I could barely breathe. Clara kept looking at me, her hands twisting in her lap. "Please," she whispered, as we turned onto our street. The street with the green lawns and the tidy mailboxes. "You're scaring me. What is this? Did you find something? Did the police?" "We'll talk inside." I unlocked the front door. The house was cold. It still smelled like yesterday's dinner. A life that was over. Clara stood in the entryway, her coat still on. "Grant, talk to me." I didn't answer. I walked past her, down the hall to Logan's room. The door was still open. I stepped inside. I could feel her watching me, a shadow of dread in the hallway. I knelt, pulled the floorboard up, and took out the black, spiral-bound notebook. I walked back to the living room. She hadn't moved. Her face was as pale as the hospital sheets. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just held the notebook out. "What is this?" She looked at it, and a small, strangled gasp escaped her. She didn't take it. I let it drop. It hit the coffee table with a soft, final thud. I, she stammered, her eyes wide with panic. "Grant, I can explain. It's not what you think." "What do I think it is, Clara?" I asked. My voice was quiet, conversational. It was the quiet I used before a breach. "Do I think it's a ledger of all the money you've been losing? Do I think it's a list of payments to a loan shark? Or do I think it's the reason our son is in a coma?" She collapsed. Not a faint, a fold. Her legs gave out, and she crumpled onto the carpet, her hands covering her face. Sobs tore out of her, huge, racking, ugly sounds of pure, cornered guilt. It started small. She choked into her hands. I was just online. The slots. It was just for fun. Just a little, and I won. I won, Grant. But then, I lost. I needed to win it back. I stood over her. I felt nothing. No pity. No empathy. Just a vast, cold distance. "How much?" I don't know." "How much, Clara?" 40,000. "Maybe 50, she whispered. I tried to get a bank loan. They turned me down. I was going to lose the house. "So you went to Preston." Her head snapped up, her face a mess of tears and terror. How did you?" "He helped you, didn't he?" I said, the pieces clicking together, sharp and hard. "He was so understanding. He knew a private lender who could help you consolidate, save the house. He fed you to them, Clara. He fed you to Dominic." "No," she screamed. "No, he was helping me. He said it was just a business loan. He's partners with him." I roared, and the ice in my voice finally shattered, letting the white-hot rage through for just 1 second. The sound made her flinch, physically recoiling from me. I took a breath. I brought the operator back. "He's partners with him," I repeated, the coldness returning. "Preston, our friend. The man who sat at our table. He finds people like you. Desperate. Ashamed. And he feeds them to Dominic. And Dominic. He sends his messages." "I was going to pay it back," she cried, crawling toward me, grabbing at my pants. I needed more time. "Logan, Logan." She dissolved again, her grief for our son finally merging with her guilt. "What did he do, Clara?" I asked, my voice lethal. He found the notices," she sobbed. "From Dominic. They were They were threatening me. They were awful. He found them. He confronted me. I told him. I told him everything. I closed my eyes. My brave, stupid, wonderful boy. And what did he do? I whispered. He said he would handle it. She choked. He said, I'll fix it, Mom. He took the money from his college fund. The money your father left him. He wouldn't pay them. He was trying to protect me. He was trying to be a hero. Dominic's words. My son had walked into the shark's tank with $20,000, trying to pay off a $50,000 debt to a monster, all to protect his mother, to protect our family. And they shot him. They shot him 3 times and left him on the pavement as a message to her. I looked down at the woman weeping at my feet, the woman I had vowed to protect, the woman who had, through secrecy and shame, brought this entire world of violence down on our heads. She was the one who pulled the trigger as surely as if she'd held the gun. Grant, she begged, looking up at me, her face destroyed. Grant, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please say something. I looked at her for a long time. I saw her, but she wasn't my wife. She was a liability. She was a security breach. She was the weak point in the armor that had allowed the enemy to strike. He took 3 bullets for your secret, Clara, I said, my voice empty of all emotion. He's dying. For your shame. I turned my back on her. Grant. Wait, she screamed, scrambling to her feet. Where are you going? What are you going to do? I stopped at the door to my study. I didn't turn around. You lost the money, I said. You lied to me. You let a shark feed on our family. And you let your son pay the price. I opened the study door. Grant, please. I'm going to do what you should have done, I said, stepping into the dark room. I'm going to fix what you broke. I closed the door, and I turned the lock. The click echoed in the silent, broken house. I locked the deadbolt. Clara's fist hammered against the solid wood. Grant, don't do this. Please. What are you going to do? Talk to me. Don't do something crazy. Her voice was muffled, hysterical. I ignored it. My study wasn't just a study. It was where I kept the old life. In the back of my filing cabinet, under Taxes 2010, was a false bottom. Inside was a scarred, military-spec laptop. It hadn't been powered on in 15 years. I sat in my leather chair, the one I used to pay bills. Clara's sobs were a wet, rhythmic sound on the other side of the door. I booted the machine. It whirred to life, its operating system an old, secure version that never touched the public internet. I plugged in a small, black USB drive. It took 2 minutes for it to find a secure, encrypted node. A simple chat window opened. One name, Felix. Me. I'm in. The reply was instant. Felix, thought you might be. What's the play? Me. The wife is compromised. The lawyer, Preston, is the feeder. Dominic is the shark. Felix, Grant. The wife? Me. She's the weak point. She brought this in. Logan found out. He tried to pay the debt. Dominic shot him to send a message to her. A long pause. Felix, my God. Okay. What do you need? Me. Dominic's not the head. He's a blunt instrument. Preston is the brain. But I can't touch Preston. Not yet. I need to take Dominic's legs out from under him. I need to make him paranoid. I need to make him bleed. Felix, how? Me. You said he's ambitious. That means he has rivals. I want a list. Everyone who wants his territory. I want their numbers, their habits. I'm going to give one of them an anonymous gift. Felix, what kind of gift? Me. A list of Dominic's high-value clients. The ones who are late. The ones he's messaging. He'll be so busy fighting a war on a new front, he won't see me coming. Felix, that's messy. Me. It's a distraction. While he's looking left, I'm going to hit him from the right. I also need you to build a file. A detailed one. Every asset. Every car, every watch, every cash deposit. We're going to burn him with the IRS. But not yet. We time it. Felix, done. This is the old Grant. I like it. Be careful. Me, one more thing. I need a clean, untraceable number. Spoofed. Now, a string of code appeared on my screen. I copied it to a burner phone I kept in the same box. A cheap, pay-as-you-go brick. I looked at the study door. Clara had gone quiet. I could just hear her, sniffling, still sitting on the floor in the hallway. A prisoner of her own lies. I dialed. Not Dominic. That's what he'd expect. I called the number for the mechanic. The one named Hunter. The one who put his hands on me. It rang 3 times. Yeah, Ryder's Rides. Who's this? His voice was bored, greasy. I didn't say anything. I just let the silence sit there. Hello, he said, annoyed. I spoke, my voice low, pitched just differently enough. You put your hands on Grant Hayes today. A sharp intake of breath on his end. Who the hell is this? How'd you get this number? You're big, Hunter, I whispered. But you're stupid. You work for a child. A sloppy, arrogant child who talks too much. You better watch your mouth, old man. He told me, you know, I said, cutting him off. Dominic. He bragged about it. Bragged about shooting a college kid. 3 times. Center mass. The silence on the other end was total. I had him. He's careless. I continued, the words like ice. He left his custom blue vape pen at the scene. The one with the snake logo. I have it. That's impossible, Hunter stammered. The police hadn't reported that. He knew it. This wasn't a cop. You and Dominic, you're both going down. But he's going to throw you to the wolves first. He's the boss. You're just the muscle. Who do you think they'll cut a deal with? You don't know what you're talking about. I know he met with Preston, the lawyer, at 5 a.m. this morning. I know you're just the hired help. Tell your boss. Grant Hayes knows. And he's coming. You can just run. I hung up. I snapped the phone in half, pulled the SIM, and dropped them both into a cup of water I'd left on my desk. Phase 1 was complete. The seed was planted. I hadn't threatened. I had simply revealed what I knew. To a professional, that's the most terrifying threat of all. Hunter wouldn't just be scared. He'd be furious at Dominic for being so sloppy, for being so arrogant, for putting him at risk. My personal phone buzzed. The one I used for my real life. It was the hospital. My blood turned to ice. I fumbled with the lock, my hands suddenly shaking. I ripped the door open. Clara was still on the floor, her face a ruin of tear tracks. She looked up, her eyes wide with a new, animal-like terror. What? What is it? I pushed past her, my voice a rasp. The hospital. I ran to the car. I broke every speed limit. I ran from the garage, my footsteps echoing. I burst into the ICU. The doctor, Evan, was standing by Logan's bed. Doctor, I said, breathless. He turned to me, his face calm. Mr. Hayes, I was just calling. There's no major change. But I wanted to let you know, his intracranial pressure, it's stabilizing. The swelling isn't getting worse. It's a small win. But it's a good sign. I gripped the bed rail. My legs almost gave out. The relief was so profound, so sudden, it was a physical blow. He's fighting, the doctor said. I looked down at my son, at the tubes, the wires, at his still, pale face. Yeah, I whispered, reaching out and touching his hand. It was still warm. I know he is. I sat in the chair that Clara had occupied. The operator was gone again, replaced by the father. Keep fighting, Logan, I whispered to him, my throat tight. You keep fighting. I'm taking care of the rest. I promise you. I'm cleaning up the mess. It's a good sign. The doctor's words were a tiny pinprick of light in an endless, suffocating darkness. Logan was fighting. The swelling wasn't winning. I sat by his bed for another hour. Clara never came back to the ICU. I didn't care. I watched the numbers on the screen. 98, 99, 98. I held my son's hand, and for the first time since I'd seen the chalk outlines on the pavement, the rage in my chest cooled, just a little. It wasn't a fire anymore. It was a block of dry ice. Cold, precise, and burning. My personal phone buzzed. A text from Clara. I'm in our room. I'm so sorry, Grant. Please. We need to talk. I deleted it without replying. My other phone, the burner, buzzed in my coat pocket. I stood up, kissed Logan's forehead, and walked out. In the concrete stairwell, I checked the message. It was from Felix. Package is ready. You wanted Dominic's main rival? His name is Tristan. He runs the north side. Tristan doesn't use kids. He uses ex-military. He's professional, and he hates Dominic's TikTok gangster style. This link contains Dominic's full late client list, his collection routes, and the times his muscle, Hunter, makes pickups. It's a key to the whole kingdom. Send it to the provided email. It's Tristan's private, encrypted box. Felix finished with one line. This isn't a distraction, Grant. This is a declaration of war. You sure? I typed back one word. Yes. I left the hospital. I didn't go home. I drove to a public library in a different county, one I had no connection to. I walked in, my head down, just another man killing time. I sat at a public computer terminal, the keyboard sticky, the mouse slow. I used a temporary, anonymous browser, routed my signal through 3 different countries, and logged into the throwaway email account Felix had made. I attached the file, the key to Dominic's kingdom. The recipient email was simple, t-northside@proton.sec. I clicked send. I sat for a full 60 seconds. I watched the screen. Then, I logged out, cleared the cache, and wiped the browser history. I walked out of the library, my footsteps silent. It was done. I had just lit a fuse on a powder keg and walked away. Now, I needed to watch the pretty colors. I didn't go back to Industrial Way. Not to my old spot. That would be stupid. Tristan's people would be watching it. Dominic's people would be watching it. I went to a 4-story parking garage 2 blocks over, one that gave me a high, long-distance view of the entire street. I parked on the roof, in the corner. I sat in the darkness of my car, the window cracked, and I pulled out the binoculars I kept in my trunk's emergency kit. I focused the lens. Ryder's Rides looked like a dollhouse from here. I saw the red bay doors. I saw the office light. I waited. For an hour, nothing. The usual flow of loud cars and posturing kids. Then, at 4:17 p.m., a dark gray, nondescript van, a plumber's van, maybe, cruised down the street. It was going just a little too slow. It wasn't a cop. It was too professional. It passed the shop, circled the block, and passed again. Tristan's scout. He was validating the intel. My heart beat a slow, steady drum. It's working. 20 minutes later, the real show started. I saw Hunter, the big mechanic. He burst out of the side door of the garage, not in his greasy uniform, but in street clothes. He was carrying a duffel bag. He was running. He yanked the door of his beat-up pickup truck open and threw the bag inside. He was panicked, his head whipping left and right, checking the street. He looked like a cornered animal. My phone call. The seed of paranoia. It had worked. He was terrified of me, terrified of the police, and now, he was terrified of whatever was coming. He was getting out. The office door flew open. Dominic ran out onto the pavement, his designer jacket flapping. He wasn't wearing shoes, just socks. Hunter, he screamed. His voice was too far away to hear, but I could read the raw panic on his face. Hunter, get back here. You don't walk out on me. Hunter was already in the truck. He slammed it in reverse, peeling rubber, and swerved onto the street, his tires smoking. He was gone. Dominic stood there, alone, in the middle of his driveway, in his socks. He looked small, a pathetic, terrified child. He kicked a hubcap, a futile burst of rage, and scrambled back inside, slamming the door. He just lost his lead muscle. The enforcer, his one-man security detail. Dominic was vulnerable. He was alone, and he was scared. The cold satisfaction that filled my chest was almost as good as breathing. This was justice, not the fast, hot kind. The cold, slow, surgical kind. This was my kind. My personal phone vibrated on the passenger seat. I glanced at the screen, my blood turning back to ice. It wasn't Clara. It wasn't the hospital. It was Preston. The text was obscene in its mundanity. Grant, my friend, I've been trying to reach you. I just heard the devastating news about Logan. My heart is broken for you and Clara. Please, let me know if there is anything at all, I can do. We should talk." He was checking on the bait. The shark was circling, pretending to be a dolphin. He wanted to see how broken I was. He wanted to know if the message had been received. I stared at the text, the casual, sickening "my friend." I typed back, "Thank you, Preston. You're right. We should. Can you meet me at my house? I need a friend. I need advice." He replied instantly, "Of course, Grant. Anything for you. I'll be there in an hour." My hands were steady. My mind was clear. He thought he was coming to comfort a grieving father. He had no idea. He was walking into a trap. I was sitting in the dark when he arrived. I didn't turn on the lights. The only illumination in our living room came from the cold, blue-white streetlights filtering through the blinds, painting stripes on the carpet. I heard his Lexus pull into the driveway. The quiet, expensive thud of his car door. The sound of his leather-soled shoes on our walkway. He rang the doorbell. Once. A polite, concerned chime. I sat. I let him wait. He rang it again, this time holding it a little longer. I stood up from the armchair and walked to the door. I didn't look through the peephole. I already knew who it was. I opened the door. Preston stood on my welcome mat. He was wearing a cashmere overcoat, his silver hair perfectly coiffed. He had a look of deep, practiced sadness on his face. He was holding a bottle of something expensive. "Grant," he said, his voice a low, sympathetic murmur. "My friend." I came as soon as I could. He made to hug me, the classic, one-armed man hug of fake comfort. I didn't move. I just stood in the doorway, blocking his path. "Preston," I said. My voice was dead. His smile faltered, just for a fraction of a second. He was expecting a grieving, sobbing wreck. He wasn't expecting this cold, empty stillness. "May I come in?" he asked, his concern ratcheting up. "Grant, you look terrible. You shouldn't be alone." "I'm not," I said. "Claire's upstairs. She's resting." I stepped back, opening the door. I let him walk into the darkness. "Grant, let's get some lights on," he said, fumbling for the switch. "No, I like the dark," I said. "Come into my study." I turned and walked away, not checking to see if he followed. I heard his footsteps, hesitant now, following me down the hall. I went into my study, the one I had locked Clara out of. I sat in my desk chair. The room was black. I didn't turn on the lamp. Preston stood in the doorway, a dark silhouette against the faintly lit hall. He was holding the bottle of whiskey like a shield. "Grant, this isn't healthy," he said, his lawyerly, in-control voice returning. "You're in shock. It's understandable. But you need—" "What do I need, Preston?" I cut him off. My voice was quiet, but it sliced through the dark. "Do I need a friend? Do I need advice? That's what you offered." He stepped in, letting the door click shut behind him. A mistake. He had just trapped himself in with me. "I'm here for you, Grant. For you and Clara. Whatever you need. Legal. Financial." "Financial," I repeated. The word hung in the air. "That's interesting. Let's talk about that." I finally reached over and clicked on the small, green-shaded desk lamp. The light was dim, but it was enough. It lit my face and the top of my desk, and the black, spiral-bound notebook I had placed there. Preston saw it. His eyes darted from my face to the notebook. I saw the tiny muscle in his jaw clench. He didn't recognize it. "Not yet. Clara's dead," I said. The air went out of the room. Preston's fake sad face dissolved. It was replaced by a sharp, cold, calculating mask. The mask of the lawyer. I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Don't lie, Preston. I don't have the patience for it." I leaned forward into the green light. "I know about the gambling. I know about the loan. I know about Dominic. He was good. I'll give him that. He didn't panic. He straightened his tie. Grant, your wife has a problem. She came to me. As her lawyer, I did what I could to help her. I connected her with a private lender. It was all above board. Above board. I laughed. It was a dry, ugly sound. Was it above board when your partner, Dominic, shot my son 3 times to send a message? Now, wait a minute, he said, raising his hands. You can't prove any of that. Dominic is a legitimate businessman. Ryder's Rides is a client. I made an introduction. You fed her to him, I whispered. You, our friend, our lawyer. You saw she was weak. You saw she was desperate. And you fed her to a shark. He was silent. His eyes were cold now. The friend was gone. The shark was here. Why? I asked. Just why? The money? Was the kickback that good? He actually smirked. A tiny, arrogant twitch of his lips. You wouldn't understand, Grant. You have no idea what it's like. You, with your perfect life. He spat the words. Perfect Grant Hayes. The perfect wife, the perfect son, the perfect house. The boring, stable, logistics manager. You were always so smug. So better. You have no idea how hard I worked. The corners I had to cut. And you just had it all. Handed to you. This was the twist. It wasn't just greed. It was jealousy. It was a deep, rotting resentment. Clara, he continued, his voice dripping with condescension. She wasn't so perfect, was she? She had a little hole. A little gap. I just helped her fill it. It felt good, to be honest. To have a piece of your perfect life. To know I owned a secret that could shatter it all. He wasn't just a lawyer. He was a sociopath. You owned a secret. I repeated, my voice a flat line. And now it's out. And it got my son put on a ventilator. That's on Dominic, Preston said, shrugging. He's impulsive. A child. I told him it was a bad move. You told him, I said. Because you're the brain. He's just the muscle. The problem is, your muscle just ran away. Preston's eyes narrowed. What did you say? Hunter. Dominic's big, stupid enforcer. He packed a bag and ran about an hour ago. He seemed scared. How? How could you possibly know that? And Dominic, I continued, ignoring him, he's now alone. And he's scared. And he's stupid. And then, he got a call. From his biggest rival. A man named Tristan. It seems someone sent Tristan a gift. Dominic's entire client list. His routes. His ledgers. Preston's face. The color drained from it. He finally understood. This wasn't a grieving father. This wasn't a confrontation. This was a debriefing. You did this. He whispered, his hands shaking. Tristan is on his way to burn Ryder's Rides to the ground right now, I said, leaning back in my chair. Dominic has lost everything. In the span of 1 hour. His muscle, his business, his money. And he's a cornered, violent, stupid animal, Preston. I leaned forward again, into the light. And who do you think he's going to blame? I let the question hang in the air. He's not going to blame the grieving father, I said. He's not going to blame the rival. He's going to blame the brain. He's going to blame the smart partner who was supposed to keep things clean. He's going to blame the man who set up the loans. He's going to blame you. Preston was backing toward the door. You're insane. You started a war. I just pointed his gun in the right direction. As if on cue, a phone vibrated. A loud, buzzing sound on the hardwood floor of the study. It wasn't my phone. Preston froze. He looked down. His phone, on the floor. It had fallen from his overcoat pocket when he'd backed away. The screen lit up the darkroom. We both saw the name on the caller ID. Dominic. Preston looked at the ringing, vibrating phone. Then he looked at me. His face, it wasn't arrogance. It wasn't jealousy. It was pure, unadulterated terror. He knew exactly what that call meant. The phone rang. Once. Twice. The sound, a shrill buzz in the black, silent study, was the only thing in the world. Preston stared at it. Dominic. The name on the screen glowed, a death sentence. You're bluffing, Preston whispered, his voice cracking. You're just a logistics manager. Answer it, Preston, I said, my voice calm. No, I won't. Answer your phone. It wasn't a request. It was an order. His hand, shaking so badly he could barely control it, fumbled for the phone on the floor. He picked it up. His thumb hovered over the screen. "Put it on speaker," I commanded. He flinched, then obeyed. He tapped the screen. The ringing stopped. "You." The voice that exploded from the small speaker was barely human. It was a raw, terrified scream, distorted by panic. "You did this. You set me up, you. Tristan's men are outside. They're everywhere. They're trying to kill me. Dominic, listen to me." Preston babbled, his lawyerly composure shattered. "It wasn't me. It was him. It was Grant Hayes." A new voice entered the call. "Mine." "He's right, Dominic," I said, my voice cutting through the static. It was me. A dead, cold silence. I could hear the sound of Dominic's ragged breathing, the distant sound of shouting in the background. What are you?" he whispered. "I'm the man whose son you shot. I'm the man you taunted. I'm the man who just sent a 40-page file detailing every single crime you and Preston have committed in the last 5 years to a federal RICO task force. The IRS. The DEA. Everything." Preston's head snapped up, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. He finally understood. The gang war?" he stammered. "A distraction," I said, my eyes locked on his. "A fire, to smoke you rats out. I needed you both panicked. I needed you sloppy. I needed you to turn on each other. And you did." "No, no, no." Preston was muttering, backing into the wall, his hands flat against it, as if to hold himself up. "Tristan won't get you, Dominic," I said into the phone. "The feds will be at your door before he is. But Preston, he's right here. He's been the brain all along, hasn't he? He'll make a wonderful witness. They'll love him in protective custody." I heard a click on the other end. Dominic had hung up. He was running, but there was nowhere to go. "It's over," I said to Preston. I gestured to the open study door. The bottle of whiskey he had brought was still on the floor, forgotten. "Get out of my house," I said. "You have about 10 minutes before your world ends. You might want to find a new lawyer. I hear you're going to need one." He didn't run. He just stumbled. He scrambled out of the study, out of the front door, a completely broken man. I watched from the window as he got into his Lexus, not a man in control, but a fugitive. He sped away, his tires squealing. It was finished. The house was silent again. But this time, it was a different silence. It wasn't the silence of grief. It was the silence of an empty room. I walked into the hallway. Clara was still there. She had heard it. All of it. She was standing at the top of the stairs, her face pale. "Grant," she whispered. It was a question, an appeal. I looked up at her. This woman I had loved, the mother of my child, the stranger who had brought this poison into our home. "I'm going to the hospital," I said. "Wait," she said, taking a step down. "Us? What about us?" I stood at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at her. The operator was gone. The hunter was gone. All that was left was the man she had lied to. "You betrayed our son, Clara," I said, my voice heavy, not with anger, but with a terrible, hollow sadness. "You chose your shame over his safety. I can't look at you and not see him, lying on that pavement. I can't." "I'm sorry," she wept. "I'm so sorry. I can fix it. We can fix it." "No," I said. You have to fix you. I have to go to our son." I turned, and I walked out the front door. I didn't look back. The sound of squeaking rubber soles on a polished floor. That's the new sound of my life. I'm not sitting in a dark study. I'm sitting on a hard, plastic chair in a room that's too bright. A physical therapy center. The news reports were a blur. Local lawyer, business owner arrested in sweeping federal raid. Loan sharking ring dismantled. They were gone. Buried. The system had absorbed them. Justice, cold and bureaucratic, was served. And here, in this bright room, is the other kind of justice. Logan is between two parallel bars. His face is a mask of sweat, his teeth gritted. His legs are thin. He's fighting. He's fighting his own war. He takes a step. His whole body shakes with the effort. "That's it," I say. My voice is quiet. He falters, gripping the bar. I can't, Dad. It hurts. I know. I say, standing up. I walk over. I know it hurts. But you're not done. You're a fighter, Logan. I know this. I've seen it. He looks at me, his eyes clear. The boy I almost lost. Okay, he breathes. Okay. One more. He lifts his foot. He takes the step. He's standing on his own. I put my hand on his shoulder. And for the first time in what feels like a lifetime, I just breathe. The revenge is complete. But the cost is always there. I did what I had to do. I brought justice. But it makes me wonder, how far would you go to protect the ones you love? This is Betrayal Stories Lab. If this story hit you, if you felt that cold chill of justice, then let us know you're with us. It means the world if you'd hit that like button and make sure you subscribe, because we have so many more stories to tell. We see you all. In fact, we'd love to know, what city or country are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. And most important of all, what kind of stories do you want to see next? Do you want more epic family conflict? More cold, calculating revenge? Stories of healing? Tell me what you love, and I will bring those exact stories to you. We'll see you in the next epic, amazing story. Until then, take care.